Some changes around YouTube. I sure would like to see. Oh, I miss my bubbles. That's all. My bubbles are gone. Remember, you used to have all those filters and shit. Man. Anyway, yo, I think I figured it out, y'all. Diddy don't like them light skinned bitches who think they all fine and pretty and all that. I figured it out. I don't think Diddy has any respect for them high yellow light skinned bitches who think they so fine and any man will want to wife them and they can get themselves a rich man and get whatever they want. Man, after finding out who Jane Doe is, that's when it all came into perspective for me. You know, at one point, it's Jane Doe's birthday, right? And she thinks, number one, she thinks her and Diddy are an item. I don't know how anybody could think that they're an item because your dude sits in the corner jacking off as he pays dudes to run through you and you gotta suck them and all this stuff and baby oil. How you think you and that dude is an item, I don't know. But maybe I'm jumping too far ahead of myself. All right, no, let me back up. How do you come to this conclusion that Diddy don't like light skin? Man, mm, mm, mm. You know, these light skinned chicks, not all, not all, but light skinned chicks like Cassie and this Jane Doe, they just think they better. Let's be real, let's be honest. They think they better than dark skinned people, period. And don't let them be a model. You know, they'll look down on your black ass real quick. And they are definitely the ones who have that Cinderella complex ingrained in their psyche. What's the Cinderella complex? Well, the Cinderella complex is that great reading, funny too. I will, Taylor. Just bear with me. Hey, Kaylin, and I'm not, and adios. How y'all doing? I'm gonna try not to look at the chat for a few minutes because I gotta get this out. The Cinderella complex, which is really detrimental to all little girls. And I don't care if you're light, you're dark, you're white, you're brown, whatever. Um, you know, when we're little girls and we're learning how to read, and you know, even in school and even Disney movies, you know, all those fairy tales, you know, it always ends with the prince and he's rich and he handsome and he just saves you and you go off riding into the sunset and you live happily ever after. That happens with Cinderella, it happens with Snow White, it happens with Sleeping Beauty, and I'm sure a whole lot of other Disney movies of recent times. And I'm a real advocate against allowing little girls watch those type of Disney movies and read those. And Cinderella, no, you cannot read Cinderella because it gets into the psyche, and we grow up that some prince is going to, save us. And maybe we don't need saving. But the thing is to get a rich, handsome man and live happily ever after. And some people get a rich, handsome man, and it turns out to be their worst fucking nightmare. I think Diddy was a billionaire, a bored billionaire, especially getting up in age in his 50s. You can't be so hot in the music scene no more. There's a certain amount of attention that had just dwindled when it came to Puffy in terms of music and, and all of that. Because you're getting older and, music generally um, attracts, the younger generations. 20-year-olds, teenagers, 13, 14, they ain't trying to see no 50-year-old man bopping up and down on the stage. You know? You know, I'm telling the truth. So, um, with Cassie and this Jane Doe, and it just knocked me over when I found out who Jane Doe really was. They think they so fine that they can get any man they want. And Diddy knew this. When I tell you that Diddy was bored, I think part of things that gave him excitement was to get a fine bitch like Cassie or a fine bitch like Jane Doe and turn them out. Listen, there are some people with a lot of money, so much money, they get bored with life. You have one guy in Alaska, rich guy, so bored he was a hunter. He liked to go hunting, but it was boring hunting animals. So he would go to bars and shit and pick up a chick and, hey, I got a private plane. And, oh, you rich, you got a private plane. He take him on a private plane and then land, wine and diner, and then, let's go hunting. Okay, cool. She don't know that she's the prey. He releases her butt naked out in the woods for about 2 hours, and he goes hunting her and kills her. And he did this to plenty of women. Why? Because he had a lot of money and was fucking bored. This is the same shit with Puffy. A lot of money, fucking bored. Now, he had enough money to find a plethora of women in this world who would be willing to have freak offs. And he could have found a plethora of women to have freak offs with him at any time for free. He wouldn't even have to pay them because it's what they love. It's what they crave. It's what they want to do. They'll be happy as a pig in shit. They won't ask you for nothing. And then there will be some he would have to pay. But that would be boring to him. The real excitement is getting a fine, pretty model bitch who can easily make $250,000 a year modeling, because that's what she was doing, and separate her from her finances. And it's not that he had to do a lot of effort. It's not even that he said, I'm going to separate her from her finances. I don't even think he thought that far. She separated herself because she's with this rich billionaire dude. So I ain't got to make my own money anymore. But the excitement for Puffy is to take a bitch like that and turn her into a hoe. Turn her into a hoe so smooth that she don't even think she's a hoe for years. She thinks she's his girlfriend. Ain't that deep? You think you in a loving relationship with your light skin above everybody ass because you think you so fine, and you think you in a relationship and you too stupid to realize, number one, you the only one in the relationship. You may be his girlfriend, but you ain't his chick. You ain't his woman. And it'll be years to find out that you was never his girlfriend. You was just his hoe. That's the part right there that blows my fucking mind. He introduces you to escorts and that whole devolvement, although she's thinking their relationship is evolving because she's pleasing him by having another dude screw her while he's sitting in the corner jacking off. So she thinks their relationship is evolving. But the moment she agrees to it, Puffy is like, oh, this relationship just devolved. And although he was with Cassie for 10 years and having trains basically ran up on her, in her at times, he has lost complete respect for her long time ago. Meanwhile, in Cassie's mind, well, if I keep doing this and pleasing him, one day I'll have the number one spot. He'll give me a ring. I know he'll give me a ring because I'm light skinned and I'm fine and I'm pretty. And fuck him, that old black dog bitch. Should be no problem for me to get in the number one spot. And she continued in this abusive relationship, dealing with sucking so much, till she got sores in her mouth. Not having any boundaries because she had her eyes on an imaginary prize, the prize of being number one in Diddy's life, whether that is his number one girlfriend or better than that, his wife. And that should be easy to do if his number one is a dark-skinned chick. Diddy ain't got no respect for these light-skinned bitches. That's why he did them dirty the way he did them. And he kept this illusion before Cassie's eyes up. I mean, how many times did we see her on his arm at the red carpet? He knew what to do. Well, there's a chance he could have taken Kim out to the Grammys on the red carpet, but he's taking me because I'm fine and I'm light skinned. Maybe Kim was tired of red carpets and really didn't want to go. But anyway, Diddy had no respect for these light-skinned bitches at all. And let me tell you something. The more I hear different witnesses testify, the more I see that not one of those bitches were victims. I don't give a fuck if you talk about grooming and all of that shit. No. Before I found out who Jane Doe was, Jane Doe had been the first one I almost was feeling sorry for. She's the first one that I was about 90% believing that she was a victim. Until I found out who she was. I was, oh no, oh hell no, she ain't no victim. And that's when the focus came into perspective for me. And I began to see the whole picture. So, I always said from the beginning that Cassie wanted the lifestyle. So far, these witnesses, Cassie, this Jane Doe, and this Mia, I cannot put them in the victim category at all. And it's like the confidence game. What's the confidence game? You know, when you got a con man out, you know, them con games that will go out and go on in New York and shit. Somebody say, hey, I got a brand new TV for you. You can have it for $100. It's $1,000 laptop or something. Right here in the box, new in the box. You can have it for $100. You give them $100, they hand you the box, disappear. When you open the box, it's full of bricks. So you just got beat out of $100 and you don't have a laptop in your hands, you got a box of bricks. That's the confidence game. That's a con man. Well, is the guy who wanted to pay $100 for a $1,000 laptop, is he a victim? No. You wanted to get stolen property for $100 and you got beat. Cassie, you wanted a lifestyle for being pretty and light skinned. And what did you get out of it before the lawsuit? A wet pussy and a dry pocketbook after 10 years. Take some responsibility. Won't take no responsibility. Let me move to this Jane Doe. She is currently on the stand. First of all, let me inform you, if you don't know, how her and Puffy first got together. Puffy was dating Jane Doe's friend first. Who that friend is, I don't know. I was wondering if it was Cassie, because Jane Doe started a relationship with Puffy from 2021 up until last year. So that's like 3 years, right? But so I don't know who this friend is. I never seen Cassie and Jane Doe in a picture together on the internet like they were friends or period. So must have been some other chick. Jane Doe starts messing with Puffy behind her friend's back. Anything that happened to Jane Doe after that, that bitch deserve it. Fuck you, bitch. Anyway, she starts messing with Puffy. And so their first date, they get on his private jet with his barber, the chef, security, his assistant, whatever, and they fly to Turks and Caicos. And they're in Turks and Caicos for 9 days, on the beaches and having fun and doing whatever you could do over there in Turks and Caicos. And then 6 days after that, they were in Bermuda or the Bahamas. I think the Bahamas. Might have been Bermuda, I don't know. One of them islands. And they did ecstasy, or she did ecstasy for the first time. He dropped the pill in her mouth, and they were on the beach. And then the next thing she knows, she flaring and kicking up sand. And his assistants had to get her into the shower, which they should have called the cops because she could have died. Whatever, but she ended up okay. And, he had offered her ecstasy for like 10 times within 9 days of the Turks and Caicos trip. But anyway, it was then started doing ecstasy or whatever. Then that was 9 days and 6 days in Bermuda. So she was gone a total of 15 days. Now, she is a mother of a son. Now, who was taking care of this kid who was about, let me see, wait, 10 or 11 at the time. And so at the end of the trip, Diddy hands her $10,000 and said, I took you away way too long and you haven't worked, haven't made any money. Here's $10,000. Pay bills, pay babysitter, whatever. And I think he gave her a piece of jewelry. Isn't that just lovely and special? Oh, did he know how to hook a light-skinned bitch? Take her on a trip for half of the month, send her home with $10,000 in expensive jewelry. She was hooked. And her light skin told her, you could be number one if you play your cards right. If he did all that for me after just a 2-week vacation, gave me $10,000 and a beautiful diamond bracelet that said love or something on it. Well, the relationship continues on. Now they're doing ecstasy and having sex, just those two. And then they watching porn on ecstasy and having sex and, And during one love making session, in her mind, they watching porn and Diddy's like, yo, what's your fantasy? Would you like to have a dude with a, hung like that doing you? And she was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind. But this is just in conversation. Not necessarily she was serious about it. But yeah, I wouldn't mind. He's like, I can make that happen for you. She gets up and goes to the bathroom. She ain't thinking nothing about it. She comes out, Puffy on the phone making calls and shit, probably on Craigslist. 2 hours later, a dude shows up. He's about to make her fantasy come true. Now, I believe it was something that she really didn't want to do. But because it's in the forefront of your mind that you want to be Puffy's wife, you want to be in the number one spot, you'll get down like that to please him. Because you got to please him to be number one. You'll never, that's common sense. You'll never be number one if you displease anything or anybody, right? So she engages, and afterwards, when it was all over and she gets home, she feels disgusted and dirty. But not enough to walk away from Puffy and the idea of being number one. She wasn't that disgusted. That disgust did not create a boundary line for her at all. Because she continues to engage. Now, I'm not going to go through every point of her testimony, but then it escalated to where he would have 3 and 4 niggas run through her over a course of a hotel night, because it was no longer called a freak off. It was called a hotel night. And you got to understand, the first guy that comes in, and that's with all of them, foreplay lasts about 4 hours. 4 hours before intercourse. And mind you, the assistants always set up the hotel room before Diddy and his light-skinned hoe gets there. That means they gotta set up the red lights, candles, blankets or sheets on the sofa, and of course, baby oil. Lots of baby oil. And whatever else, wine, the drugs, of course, all of that. So when Puffy and the light-skinned hoe, whether it was Cassie or this Jane Doe, everything is set. So when the entertainer arrives, foreplay starts with the baby oil. They got to rub baby oil on themselves. They got to rub baby oil on each other while he's sitting in the corner and he's directing the scene. Move a little bit over to the left so you can get more light. More oil. Got to do more oil. And they doing all this for 4 hours with the baby oil and the masturbation and the fingering and, and the sucking and all of that. And then they can only have intercourse when Puffy says so. So at some point, he gives the okay for them to have intercourse. And then the guy has to finish on top of the coochie and a stomach, a chest, and nipples. And then he's dismissed. He leaves. And then Puffy and the light-skinned chick, Jane Doe, would get busy. But, he got to play in the man stuff first. Because that's what he liked. So that can go on for another 2 hours. And because they're on ecstasy and different types of drugs, there's no sleep during these freak-offs. Yeah, you could be up 3-4 days straight. No sleep. You getting tired, pop another pill. So after he's done with that, next dude comes in. And the whole thing starts again. The baby oil, the 4 or 5 hours of foreplay, and this and that and the other. And then the guy has to finish on her body, on top of the vagina, and da-da-da. And then he's dismissed. And then here come Puffy, because he got to come play in it, right? More drugs, more ecstasy. Next guy comes. Here she go again. Same thing. 3-4 hours of foreplay with the baby oil, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And, move over and more oil. Not enough oil, more oil. This goes on for hours with the more oil. And then she gets permission where the guy can mount her or whatever. Or you get on your knees and do this and, da-da-da-da-da. And we're talking about hours and hours of this shit with just one entertainer. Until he is allowed to finish on her, he's dismissed. This is all in one freak off now. Here come Puffy, got to play in the stuff as he plays with her. Da-da-da-da-da. It got so bad for Jane Doe that she said her coochie was constantly sore. She had UTIs, nasty yeast infections. At one point, Puffy told her, I need you to pierce your nipples. So she goes and gets her nipples pierced. But then one of them ends up getting infected. It got pus and blood oozing out of it. But she's still participating in these freak-offs. No boundaries. Because she hasn't reached her goal of being number one. But in her mind, she's almost there with her boyfriend because she's doing whatever he wants her to do. So maybe after a year, they come to an agreement that he pays her rent. I think she was living in New York. He gives her $6,000 to move from New York to LA into a house. That's $10,000 a month for rent. And it's agreed in the email with Diddy's accountant and the landlord, CC'd in the email, that he will pay this rent $10,000 a month. And you see, this is how stupid this light-skinned hoe is by the name of Jane Doe. And her light-skinnedness told her that she got it going on. She about to be number one because he paying my rent every month, and it's $10,000 a month. If you were somewhat of a real bad bitch, you would have had him buy you some real estate, a house in your name. Because you ain't benefiting from none of this shit. You think that's a big come up because somebody's paying your rent $10,000 a month? I know the landlord is benefiting, getting $10,000 a month on time like clockwork, but not you. See, if you would have demanded that he buy you your house be appreciating. And if shit don't work out, you sell the house. Profit is yours. But none of that matters when you're a light-skinned hoe and, you trying to get to the number one spot. That real estate and property, that'll all come once you become Mrs. Sean Combs, right? Because you light-skinned and you fine and you can do that. Puffy ain't got no respect for these light-skinned bitches. None. None. At one point, she testifies that there's this derelict dude that comes in the freak off. And she said he was sweaty and he stunk so bad. And they doing the baby oil. You putting baby oil on over body odor. I don't even want to imagine what that room smelled like. And Puffy's telling her to suck off this derelict. And she was like, no, she didn't want to do it, and she didn't. But Puffy starts screwing her and got the derelict, standing over her while she's down on her back. And she said the stinky sweat from his balls, from the derelict's balls, was dripping down on her face. But you light-skinned, fine, pretty, and all that. But you would lay down for some nasty, stinky, sweaty ball sweat to drip down on your face. Bitch, please. Jane Doe the hoe. Again, wanted the number one spot. Puffy would never spend time with her outside of the hotel nights. He might give her a little bit of time here and there, but not the time that she thought she can get or that she deserved because she light-skinned, right? Light-skinned and fine, right? Last scenario of her testimony was it was her birthday. Surely it's just going to be her and Puffy. He takes her out for her birthday, gives her a beautiful gift, wines and dines her. It's her birthday. And, they going to rent a hotel room. It's just going to be them two in her mind. So she thought, so she believed, no reason to think otherwise. Get to the hotel room, red lights and all this shit, and here come an entertainer out of one of the rooms. She was so hurt and disappointed because she didn't want to do a freak off. She wanted to just spend time with Puffy. And although she didn't want to do it, was the last thing that she wanted to do, although she was pissed, she took some ecstasy and engaged. And I think it was about 3 dudes that night that ran through her with Puffy in the corner, jerking off and directing the scenes. I already told you how the scenario went. 4 or 5 hours of foreplay. Then the dude and then he completes the act on her body, in private parts. And then he gets dismissed, and then Puffy come and play with it. So they did it 3 times. This is her birthday. And then Puffy leaves after the 3rd guy leaves her there with 2 guys. And he gets on a plane and jets off. Because she thought surely after these guys are done with her and Puffy are going to spend time together. He left her there with 2 guys and jetted off on his jet. You know where he jetted off to? Picked up Young Miami and went to Turks and Caicos. Had a freak off Jane Doe on her birthday and left. And when she sees on social media that he's in Turks and Caicos with the next chick, Young Miami, who ain't light-skinned, what a slap in Jane Doe's face. She would have loved to go to Turks and Caicos for her birthday. She was devastated, hurt. And a couple of times throughout the course of this relationship, she was telling Puffy, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired of these hotel nights. And he was like, look, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. If you want to go your separate way, you can. Go on. But I'm not going to be paying rent for no chick that ain't my girl. She continues to engage in the hotel nights. After this birthday stunt, here she go again. I'm tired of this. And that's when she realized that she wasn't the girlfriend. That she's not going to be in the number 1 spot. At least she realized it quicker than Cassie did. It took Cassie 10 years to figure it out. But she told him, I'm tired of being your hoe. And again, he's like, you ain't got to do it if you don't want to. He wasn't forcing her. He wasn't tripping over her. He ain't give a fuck if she left or whatever. He ain't had no respect for her. Go on. I done used you up as much as I wanted to. But I'll use you up some more if you let me. And she let him. It was in court, in text messages, with Puffy saying, hey, you don't have to. I'm tired of hearing about every time we talk, you want to talk about this sex. I'm tired of hearing it. You ain't got to do it if you don't want to. Let's just be friends. That's not what the light skin wanted to hear. So this is what baffles me. And I said it before. How in the hell do you think this dude is going to make you number 1, the main squeeze, his wife? After, at this point, he done watched about 100, 200 dudes go through you. But your light skin tells you it's possible. Your light skin tells you, keep going, you'll get the prize. And you ain't getting nothing but a whole bunch of dick. Man, by the time Jane Doe got with Puffy for the first time, Kim Porter had been deceased already. So Kim Porter's out the way. I know I can get him to marry me. Ladies and gentlemen, Cassie and Jane Doe and Mia, I'll talk about Mia for a little bit before I end this video. They were no victims. They were willing participants. Mia wants to claim, and Mia is a white chick. She wants to claim that Diddy raped her. Diddy made her perform fellatio on him. But yet, you posting pictures on social media and sending Diddy messages, love you, and thank you for being an inspiration to me. This is after all these times he brutally raped you. Get the fuck out of here. There are no victims, just willing participants. I hear Jane Doe was on the stand especially when she talked about her birthday, how she wanted to spend time with you, and I just told you how it went down, that she sobbed uncontrollably and just let out a wail from the depth of the soul that she sold on the witness stand. And that wailing from the depth of her soul was the realization that she degraded herself, did all of this, and didn't become number one. And she felt stupid. That wailing was the realization that she was stupid. The disgusting shit that she endured, the UTIs, the yeast infections, the infected nipples, did all of that, went through all of that, and didn't get what her light skin thought it deserved. That's what that wail was about, coming from the depth of the soul she sold. The text message when Puffy's like, hey, if you don't want to participate anymore, you ain't got to, baby. That shows he did not force her to do anything. It was her choice. Her and Cassie were like a little hamster. You know, they be in them little wheels, the little hamsters, and they just be running and running and running, going and going and going nowhere. That's what they was doing. Sucking and fucking, fucking and sucking, sucking and fucking. The yeast infections, sores in the mouth, UTIs, drippy pussy nipples. But they going and going and going and going and going on that wheel. And finally, when they finally jumped off the wheel and looked around and realized they hadn't gone no place. Well, at least not yet. So little fucking hamster jumps right back on the wheel and starts going and going and going and going. They did the same thing. Oh, I ain't get to the number one spot yet. Okay, let me get back on the wheel. Going and going and going and going and going. Man. And there's light-skinned bitches all across social media who wants to paint Cassie and Mia and Jane Doe as victims. That it wasn't their fault, that they were groomed. Yeah, some grooming went on. Yeah, I can see the grooming. But then again, you can call it grooming. I'm pausing because yeah, it was grooming. But they ain't had to go. It was their choice. It was Jane Doe's choice to first engage in a freak off with Diddy, even though that's something that she didn't want to do. But again, it was her light skinnedness, and her desire to be number one. That's why she chose to go down that rabbit hole. And stay in it on a damn hamster wheel. Was her choice. But again, these light-skinned chicks across social media, oh, they are 100% victims. And I'm like, you know what? You sound to me that Puffy could approach you with the same thing and you would have went to. You would have made the choice to do the same shit. Because anybody can't see or give any credit as to them holding themselves accountable. What roles did they play in this situation? They're going to need therapy, especially Jane Doe. She's going to need therapy. And it may take her years, and it probably will, to come to grips that these were choices that she made and that Puffy didn't force her to do it. She wanted to continue to get that $10,000 a month rent paid when she should have chose to go and get a job and pay her own rent. But her choice was to have shit paid for her, to have shit easy, to have shit given to her. And if all she had to do was suck and fuck a bunch of escorts, well, that's the price she'll pay for it. Thing is, she never got it. That's what's painful. And she was a mother of a 10, 11-year-old boy, 12-year-old boy. You think this information is going to be hidden from him forever? Wait till he becomes a young adult and fully realizes what took place. I guess you better groove him into thinking that you were a victim and you had no choices and you were forced to do it. I guess you better tell him some lies so he can see you in a better light. But with a daddy like 50, but I'm sure his daddy would be like, when the boy is old enough, when he's a young man, don't respect that bitch. That bitch is disgusting. Let me tell you what your bitch and your mother used to do. You don't believe me? Here's a transcript from the court records. That's your mama. But your light-skinnedness wouldn't let you think that far. Your light-skinnedness and a billionaire blinded you from the consequences of the future. Your light-skinnedness. Listen, again, Puffy has no respect for those light-skinned bitches. None. None. You know, you got hunters, some just hunt deer. You got hunters that hunt ducks. You know, Diddy is a hunter that hunted light-skinned bitches. Uppity, stuck up, think you better than anybody and everybody, light-skinned bitches. That's who he hunted. That was a big turn on for him to take a bad, fine, light-skinned bitch and turn her into his hoe. It was a sport. Turn her into a hoe, all the while having her think that she's his girlfriend. Wow. Who the hell is James Gordon? What up? Peace.